Let's now take you back to one of our top stories where tensions are once again rising to alarming levels between Taiwan and China following last week's death of two Chinese fishermen who were trying to escape Taiwanese coast guards near a Taipei-ruled island close to Chinese mainland. To discuss this matter, we're joined by Ambassador SR Tayal, former senior diplomat. Good evening to you, Ambassador Tayal. What do you make of what's happening? Is China using the death of these fishermen as a pretext to, in some way, once again try and corner Taiwan?
First, we need to note that Chinese fishermen have been serial offenders in fishing in the exclusive economic zones of many other countries, both in South China Sea and in East China Sea. Indonesia has been complaining that around Natuna Islands, and they have confronted Chinese fishermen. And in Korea had seized a Chinese fishing boat last October, and after that there was some agreement with China, and that every Chinese fishing boat will have some kind of an identification frequency, etc. Then Philippines, of course, all the time it is complaining, and these Chinese fishing boats have Chinese Coast Guard support. Now, in that background, also we need to see that Chinese fishing boats have been fishing in Taiwanese controlled waters, which they of course claim are their waters, because China always says that one China policy, so Taiwan is part of China. So all the waters are also China, but the reality is different. And the Chinese boats there did not have any, that is what has come from the Taiwanese side. They do not carry any identification tag, there is no name on those boats, etc. So the Taiwanese Coast Guard was fully within their right to chase these boats and to ask them where would they come from. But
And they were chased only because they were running away.
They were running away, they were not identifying themselves, and that is what the Chinese fishermen have been doing. If you see their confrontation with in the Japanese waters around Senkaku Islands or wherever, that they are very aggressive and they run away, and most of the time they have the protection of some Chinese Coast Guard who are nearby. So, in all this background, Taiwan has a very strong case that the Chinese fishing boats were operating in their economic zone. They did not have any identification on their boats, and they did not obey the orders of the Coast Guard. So,
But
and they
in
tried to run away.
response, in response, Ambassador Tayal, China has not only said it will increase patrols. One of their Coast Guard vessels, personnel from that vessel even went on board a tourist boat today. That's what the Taiwanese are saying. And they found some Chinese planes also flying around Taiwan today.
That's this group of islands which is under the control of Taiwan, but it is very close to Chinese territory also. Island. So there is potential for the two coast guards could sort of clash here, and that is the danger
Yes,
because
very
these
close to Xiamen, in fact.
that's right. That's right. Around Xiamen. So if these Chinese fishing boats are escorted by the Chinese Coast Guard, and Chinese Coast Guard's laws were changed 2 years back, and they are not just Coast Guard; they have been given powers of almost of PLA Navy, that they can try to seize and expel boats operating in Chinese EEZ. So they are just not Coast Guard; they have all the elements of Chinese Navy. So there is a potential of some conflict there between Chinese Coast Guard and the Taiwanese Coast Guard. And two fishermen, Chinese fishermen, are still under custody of of Taiwanese authorities. So surely there will be some settlement so that they can be released. But it is a new potential flashpoint between Taiwan and the People's Republic of China. And with Taiwan's election, where a pro-independence president was elected, Mr. Lai Ching-te, already tensions are a little higher than usual.
And
Both
Mr.
the
Lai
side.
Ching-te is still to take over. That's his presidency's upcoming one, and maybe China is trying to build some pressure on him already.
That's right. China is will increase pressure. China has been increasing air intrusions in the Taiwanese identification zone, and their boats have been going. So there will, I would say that Chinese pressure on Taiwan, this kind of psychological pressure through more air violation, more boats going into their area, would perhaps increase. They
Yes.
want to intimidate Taiwan, and Taiwanese leadership at present, president is a little more hawkish on against China, but the parliament, the National Assembly, is more moderate. So I do not foresee really that there will be some real clash, but there will be higher tensions in Taiwan Straits, along the Taiwan Straits.
All right. We've seen how deliberations have taken place recently, just till yesterday at the Munich Security Conference, where the world was really concerned about the kind of conflicts that have been raging across in different parts, from Russia, Ukraine to Israel, Hamas, then lots of instability and violence taking place in Africa and other places as well. In the midst of all that, if hostilities were to rise between China and Taiwan as well, do you think even China would be ready for it?
China could be ready for it, but US would not be ready for it. So really, Taiwan should be very careful that it will not be possible for Taiwan to protect itself without very real involvement of United States. And United States already its hands are full because of Russia, Ukraine, and Israel's very aggressive attitude against Hamas, and the whole world seems to be turning against Israel because of their absolutely cruel actions. But America, because of its internal elections, is not able to control Israel.
Yes,
So
there's a
they will
problem
certainly
between the
not like it.
Republicans and Democrats over Ukraine, but do you think there might be a problem with Taiwan as well, in terms of would even support to Taiwan, the kind that the US can give, could become conditional to the issue of immigrants?
But on Taiwan, perhaps Democrats and Republicans are both in favor of supporting Taiwan and fully securing its security and present status. But Taiwan should also be careful that they should not try to disturb the status quo. And both sides, both China and Taiwan, must try to maintain the status quo. And if it is status quo is disturbed by either party, then the other party will certainly react, and then it can be a spiral to the bottom. So there are already so many conflicts in this world which have flared up in the last 2 3 years because of Ukraine and then Gaza. So one hopes that better sense prevails. And this fishing incident, that is simple, that the Chinese fishing vessel should not come in the Taiwanese exclusive economic zone. So the solution is in the hands of the Chinese authorities. So it is up to them whether they want to escalate or whether they want to de-escalate. But
What
Taiwan,
kind of a role do the neighboring East Asian or Southeast Asian countries have, many of whom themselves have such territorial issues with China, and China has issues with them, and they've had confrontations as well? Philippines was the latest round some time back, a few weeks back.
unfortunately, the ASEAN has been very inactive in this. The ASEAN is the real forum in entire East Asia where such issues should be discussed. And so the countries, whether it's Indonesia, whether it's Philippines, and whether it is Republic of Korea, everybody is negotiating separately with the People's Republic of China, and they are being intimidated. They are coming under pressure. So they should try to come together, but China will never agree. China always says that all these issues are bilateral, because if the other countries in whose maritime boundary or EEZ China is transgressing, if they come together, then they will become powerful, and it will be difficult for China to handle all of them.
And what
So,
kind of
but
stakes? What kind of stakes does India have in this, and is there anything that India can do to ensure that the situation doesn't go out of hand? If India and like-minded countries, for that matter, in the West or, of course, US.
There are two parts to this. One, India, rest of the world, nobody wants another flashpoint or any kind of a hot skirmish or even more between Taiwan and People's Republic of China. At the same time, the world, including India and many neighboring countries, are suffering from this creeping expansionism which China is indulging in, whether it is South China Sea, whether it is against the Republic of Korea in the maritime zone. Taiwan, of course, they claim their own, and gradually they are increasing their, trying to increase their penetration of Taiwanese airspace and ease, etc. So the whole world should or will try to convince China that it is in their interest, it is in the interest of peace and stability in the entire Indo-Pacific, that they stop this creeping expansionism, whether it is a border with India, whether it is maritime boundaries of so many countries which they are violating and which they have violated with impunity. And world has woken up a little late to all of that. So this key, unfortunately, lies in the hands of China, because the status quo is being disturbed by actions taken by China in the
Yes.
entire Indo-Pacific.
Well, let's hope that better wisdom prevails and we don't get into uncharted waters, which may be dangerous. Thanks a lot for joining us and talking about it, Ambassador Tayal.